Welcome back to WMMBAM.com, our video on demand section, as we talk to various candidates from throughout Brevard. Today we're looking at Satellite Beach City Council candidates in this race. Mark Breimer, Lorraine Gott, but neither of those candidates here this morning. They either didn't get the invitation, didn't look for the invitation, or chose not to appear. Lloyd French is to my right in the dark suit, and
Morning,
off
Bill.
to my left in the blue shirt is Scott Rhodes. Gentlemen, thank you for showing up. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Bill.
Was talking with Trevor Lowing in an earlier interview as he runs against Frank Catino for that mayor's seat about the issues and events in the city. And we have a debate that we have not yet attended. As a matter of fact, we're doing it tonight, the night we're recording this, where these other half of the candidates who are also not present with us tonight or today are claiming they're not going to be there tonight. Just give me a really quick thought from both of you as to what you think the issues are and what the problem is. Lloyd French, we'll start with you.
Well, as far as the candidates not attending today's opportunity to speak to the public, again, it's a statement.
Without being one.
Without being one.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it indicates either a lack of confidence in the message they have to deliver or a lack of interest in the community they have to serve.
All right. Scott Rhodes, give me your thoughts on it.
I think that the candidates not showing up tonight, I think it goes back to the city has been long established with some long-standing established citizens, council members, mayors, things like that. I think there was a little bit of upheaval last year, and even when I was elected in 2009, that new voices, new ideas, things like that. I've heard from at least one of the candidates that are running this time that the women's club has always hosted this forum, and they didn't want to deviate from that. And I think a lot of people don't like change, and they're just fearful of
So
that.
a second opportunity to have a public forum is some kind of problem for the folks that have been established for some time, apparently.
I think so.
All right, let me get you to our next question. We've got just a limited amount of time here, and I want to get to as much of what's going on in the city as we can. We'll note that this is a four-person race for 2 seats. You guys not necessarily running against each other. You guys are fairly similarly minded, and you both currently serve on the city council.
That's correct, Bill. I'm running for city council to continue the positive direction that we're taking in managing our spending, maintaining our services, and reducing our debt. I am running to be the representative of our community on ideas, needs, desires, and issues where people can come to city council meetings and speak their mind without fear of any kind of mistreatment that I personally have experienced and witnessed from past councils.
Let me follow up with that just a minute, because you were part of the committee that was appointed by the council before you were on it to take a look at the budget, to take a look at the CRA, and to look at positive changes that could be made to the city. You experienced some flack for that, in all honesty.
Bill, I did, and without going into the great detail that it would take to explain all the flack, the Citizens Advisory Panel for Efficient Government was a wildly successful panel that in 90 days returned a couple of dozen recommendations to the City Council on how to stretch existing budgets without reducing the current level of services.
All right, very good. Scott Rhodes, you were on council, as you noted, started in 2009. Tell me what you saw as you got into the job, what you're seeing currently, and what you would like to do moving forward.
I joined the CRA Advisory Board in 2006 and got up to speed on some of the things that were going on with the city. And one of the first things we talked about was the transfer of funds from the CRA to the general fund. I had some questions about that, and it was kind of brushed off in my perspective of it. I ran for council in 2009, and I'd gone to several. A year or two previous to that, I'd gone to the city council meetings, and to me it appeared that a lot of the city council kind of rubber stamp things. Didn't ask a whole lot of questions, and if there were more than 6 people at a council meeting, that was a big turnout for people. I sat there for 2009, 2010 with the council, and again, it seemed like no questions were ever asked. This past election in November, when Billman and Deenan were elected to the council, we see this big change of the council members doing their homework, coming up with new ideas. The KPEG group is established, and things start really changing, representative of the community and their needs, and that led to some changes with the city manager, and I think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm finally being part of a group that is making some good and positive changes in our city.
If I understand correctly, we're seeing a lot more citizen involvement than we've had in the past.
Yes, a lot of the meetings, some standing room only a lot of times. There could be 50 to 75 people in the room. I think it holds 88. So a lot of times we've been to capacity, and I think participation is better than it's ever been in the history of the city.
Lloyd French, you said you were appointed to this council position. When you were appointed, you'd indicated you didn't want to run for council. Something happened and changed your mind. Tell me.
Bill, that's correct. In March, a very good friend of mine, Joel Sugars, announced to me and to several others that he was running for city council. In March, I was still heavily involved with the KPEG, and so I really had no intention or interest in running for city council, and that remained my contention for quite some time. In May, unfortunately, Councilman Bill Higginson passed away. And the council was faced with appointing an interim replacement, someone who was familiar with council procedure, familiar with the budget, and could help carry them through this upcoming budget year, which is going to be incredibly important based on the platforms that other candidates had run upon. So when I was selected as the interim city councilman, I stated in public that I had no intention of running. However, 2 days prior to the deadline for filing the qualification packages for running for office, Joel Sugars called me on the phone and said, "Lloyd, I'm not going to be able to run. There's things going on in my professional career that are going to keep me away from the council, and I won't be able to devote the time necessary to be a good serving councilman." He said, "But I think you should run." And I explained to Joel, I stated publicly that I am not going to run. He said, "Lloyd, I understand that, but this is a big change. We need someone like you, a conservative-minded person, all right, fiscally responsible person, to help carry through the intent and objectives of this council." And so I talked to the mayor, and he encouraged me to run. I was contacted by literally dozens of people, both personally and by email, literally begging me to run, so that there would be a good cross-section of candidates to select from.
All right, very good. Let's get to the specific issues in Satellite Beach. Scott Rhodes, you mentioned the CRA, that you'd served on that board before on council?
Yes.
All right. Give me your thoughts on where the CRA went wrong and what corrective action has needed to be taken. Is the CRA back on the right track now?
I think the CRA is back on the right track. Again, several questions had been asked in the previous years, and I believe that it was spearheaded to straighten things out. When Cheryl Deanan started attending some meetings, she's got a lot of background experience with CRAs in the county, working with Cocoa Village and Rockledge in these areas. And we followed through with that. The main thing was the transfer of monies for police, fire, and electrical services to the general fund. And per the CRA charter, that is not permissible the way it's written. So we cleaned that up. The JLAC,
Joint Legislative Auditing Committee.
Joint Legislative Auditing Committee researched it. We sent some documentation to us. They sent back some recommendations that we should probably make some plans to repay that and a schedule for that. And we've done that. We've cleared that up. The CRA director that we had resigned. We're in a search for a new CRA director. And we've got some projects in the pipeline for this coming fiscal year, and I think we're doing much better with the CRA issues.
All right, Lloyd French, one of the issues on the CRA was that it was designed for a certain purpose, the odd-sized lots, I forget the exact terminology.
Non-conforming lots.
Non-conforming lots, yeah. That was why the CRA was formed, was not addressed. Tell me about this CRA from your perspective.
Well, again, the CRA is created for a specific purpose. In order to justify a CRA, you have to have some existing condition, all right, that requires additional tax revenue to beautify or otherwise upgrade a particular segment of a community. In this case, it was the A1A Jackson, South Patrick, and Cassia corridor or perimeter of the city. They justified our CRA because of the non-conforming lots and the blighted conditions in the city. Mm-hmm. Now, as a longtime resident of Satellite Beach, there were some pockets of blight, all right, but I don't believe that there were enough pockets of blight in Satellite Beach that justified a CRA. I believe that the early councils voted in a CRA as an additional revenue source, and they started to indicate their intention of using that revenue source when they started the transfers of the CRA money to pay for police, fire, electricity, and other things that were clearly against Florida Statute 163.
All right, let's shift from the CRA into a related issue, which is the city budget. Lloyd, we'll stay with you for just a second. Where's the city budget-wise? Is it okay? Are there changes that still need to be made? And what are the problems you see? How do you want to address them?
The city budget is not okay because we have debt. Picture this, Bill. 20 years ago, past council members came to your home and said, I want to borrow your credit card, and I'm going to go out and buy you some things. 20 years, and then today, in 2008 rather, they returned your credit card and said, look at all the things that I bought. Boats and cars and jet skis and camper trailers. What they didn't tell you is that the bills are now going to come, and you're going to have to pay for the upkeep of all those things. Essentially, they charged up $2,125 for every household in Satellite Beach, leaving us $9.3 million in debt, and that's long-term debt, including the CRA, $5.1 million that we'll be paying for the next 16 years. The city can manage the situation that we're in. We cannot afford to continue on the track that we were on from literally 1991 through 2008, when our asset to debt ratio went from the single digits to nearly to the 48.5% that it is today. Try to get a Sears card with a 48.5% household debt ratio.
All right, very good. Let me turn to Scott Rhodes. Scott, you were on this council as you saw this transition take place, and as you've seen this budgeting happen. Yet in their most recent budget that both of you had voted on, you've been able to actually reduce the actual millage rate that the citizens in Satellite Beach pay. That's not something that's happening in every community in Brevard County. And Lloyd says this debt's manageable. What do you see as the biggest challenge with this budget right now?
Well, I think the budget, which we've talked about for the last year or two, also is the pensions and the unfunded liability to the city for employee benefits and things like that. The personnel policy handbook is hot on our radar. We're going to address that in a coming month or two. Get things back in line because it's a huge drag on the tax base. I think with the interim manager, we had the former city manager who left after about 26 and a half years, resigned here about June. I think with the interim manager, the department heads that I've spoken to personally, had some meetings with them one-on-one. They feel like they're more open and free to come up with different ideas. The KPEG group has come up with different ideas and strategies for cost savings, and these ideas are the suggestions of the department heads that haven't jeopardized our services. And I think there's a lot more we have to do with the KPEG report, which is 92 pages, I believe.
All right, very good. Lloyd French, we've heard in various allegations that have been thrown around in this race that the city's bleeding employees, and that the intent of this council as it exists now is to eliminate jobs, eliminate employees, and cause the services in the city to suffer. Tell me your perspective on that, please.
Well, again, that is nothing could be further from the truth. That we have not laid off or fired a single city employee with this transition of the city council. There have been people who have voluntarily left, transferred to new jobs, retired. The council may have chosen not to fill those positions, but that actually attrition is a very responsible way to test the waters to see if you have the right balance of skills and manpower that support particular activities in the city. It's easy to fix if you start seeing a deficit in production, but attrition, to me, is a responsible way, all right, to make sure that the city is functioning at its peak efficiency and that duties and responsibilities are divided in an efficient manner.
Have services to the citizens of Satellite Beach been negatively impacted?
No, not at all. The services are still at their same level and intensity as they were in the 2011 and 2012. And as I said, every single service police, fire, recreation, public works. They're all at their 2011, 2012 levels and remain unchanged.
Campaign has been characterized as the new blood versus the good old boys, and you guys pretty much acknowledge you're part of the new blood on the council. Tell me how you distinguish yourselves from your opponents. Scott, we'll start with you.
Wow. I think the previous councils, again, I believe that the city manager kind of guided everything. I think that the previous councils pretty much went along with his recommendations and things, never necessarily questioned the way the way monies were spent, the way things were funded. And I think the new council members that are here were all scrutinizing everything. I think some people get upset that we're looking at things, even the fact that we're looking at police and fire and pensions and benefits like that. People get upset about that. They fear that we are going to outsource, or we're going to completely wipe out vacation and sick time and things like that. And nothing's farther from the truth. We understand that they're viable employees for our city, and we certainly we owe it to the residents, the taxpayers that we represent, to scrutinize all the things that the city spends their money on, and that money's used wisely.
All right, folks want more information about your campaign. How do they reach you, or how do they best get information on Scott Rhodes?
You can go to my website, which is voteforscottrhodes.com, or I have my city email address. You can send it, and I've always encouraged that, srhodes@satellitebeach.org.
Very good. Lloyd French, how do you distinguish yourself from the old guard, if you will?
Well, again, I believe that people should understand that I'm running as a listener, as a thinker, and a leader who will understand the underlying whys of every vote that I cast. That I will listen to the people, I will watch people in the audience, and make my decision based on the verbal indications and nonverbal indications of the folks that have come to my council meetings, all right, to express themselves in whatever fashion they choose. I am running for the Satellite Beach public, and the future of our children and our children's children, and the things that define Satellite Beach as home. I'm not here to represent a limited few. I'm here to represent every person in Satellite Beach. I publish my number for all people to contact me. And I'll tell you what my phone number is 426-0324. If you call that number, I will answer. My website is www.lloydfrench.net. All right, there's a lot of information out there for on Lloyd French and who I am, but I would like the public to know that I have no agenda other than them.
All right, very good. Gentlemen, we are way out of time, but thank you much for coming in and taking that time with us. And
thank you,
folks,
Bill.
You're welcome. As folks come in here and get a look, they'll get an understanding of where you're coming from. I'll see you tonight at the debate. We'll see you, or forum, whatever it is, and we'll see you back here at WMMBAM.com. Thanks.